Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out this evening, virtually with us this evening. I would like to begin by introducing Patricia Davis, and she is the president of the West Towns, Illinois chapter of the Links Incorporated. And so I will let her take us away. You're on mute.
Hello, everybody, and welcome. I'm glad you're here. We have a lot to talk about this evening, but first I'd like you to know who the Links are. The Links Incorporated is an international not-for-profit corporation established in 1946. It's one of the nation's oldest and largest volunteer organizations. It's a service organization committed to enriching, sustaining, and ensuring the culture and economic survival of African Americans and other people of African ancestry. The West Towns chapter is one of 299 chapters. There are over 17,000 of us as members internationally, and we represent at least 1 million documented service hours every year. West Towns has been affiliated with the Lincoln School for nearly 10 years. And we've had lots of programming and projects, and we're most interested in helping kids to achieve more in school. To that end, we have several facets within our organization. One facet is the arts, and the arts make sure that kids are culturally aware of different programs or plays, etc., that are going on in town. We also have a poster contest. Health and Human Services is another facet, and that will be sponsoring the Black Family Wellness Day later in the year, and that will hopefully be in the school district that Lincoln is in. We also have an international trends facet that works on period poverty with children in Kenya. And we have also national trends, which has a lot to do with this year. We were helping to get out the vote. We do lots of other things that are national and international. And with that, I will end my introduction. Again, welcome, and hopefully you will get a great deal out of what's going on, because this facet is the services to use facet, and they have lots to offer Lincoln School. And with that, I'll leave it to you, LaToya.
Thank you so much, Patricia. I truly appreciate it. Thank you once again, everyone. My name is LaToya McCrae. I'm the Services to Youth Chair of our chapter, and we have a great presentation for you this evening. And like Patricia has stated, we've had a partnership with Lincoln Elementary School in Bellwood for over 10 years. And so what's special about our partnership with the school is that we have our Links C.A.R.E program, and our Links C.A.R.E program has a component of 4 areas, which we do monthly story time sessions with the students. We also do cultural and educational opportunities with the students as well. We do weekly tutoring sessions, and also, just like this evening, we have parent literacy workshops to ensure that you are informed on strategies and resources that are available for you to equip you to help your children on their education and also personal journey. And so we have a pleasure this evening to have our partners from National Louis University. And we have this evening 3 presenters that we're so excited to hear what they have this evening. We have Dr. Mary Hodge. She is our associate professor and director of the Center for Literacy at National Louis, a part of the Education and Reading and Language program. We also have Dr. Gloria McDaniels Hall. She is the associate professor of National Louis for the College of Education and Educational Leadership Program. And we also have a doctoral student, Valencia Burney, from National Louis, and she is a part of the College of Education, Reading, Language, and Literacy major. And so right now we're going to give that to them to start our presentation. But before we begin, I am going to launch a poll to get some information for you from you all. This helps us to improve our programming within our organization and making sure that we capture that data. Just want to let you know that this poll is anonymous, and so we will not see your information. And so please put a thumbs up in the chat if you are now seeing the poll on your end. All right. So we're going to allot at least 1 minute for you all to complete this poll. Again, this poll is just to help us capture data from our organization and make sure that we provide services to those in our community. So again, thank you so much for completing the poll. Can everyone see it? Thumbs up. We're almost there, folks. Thank you so much for participating in this poll. Right? Less than 30 seconds if everyone has completed the poll. And if you are a member of National Louis University or the links, please complete the poll as well. Thank you. All right, so thank you so much, everybody, for completing the poll. I have now closed the poll, and I'm going to give it to Mary Hodge from National Louis University to begin our presentation. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Latoya, for that warm welcome, and good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining us this evening. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so we can get started. Everyone see my screen okay? Okay, so tonight we're here to promote family literacy. We know that the break is coming up, winter break for all of our kiddos. They'll be home, and we want to make sure that they are involved in literacy activities at home, but also beyond the break as well. So as Latoya mentioned, I'm Dr. Mary Hoke. I'm an associate professor and the director of the Center for Literacy at National Louis University. And this evening, I'm joined by two of my esteemed colleagues. Valencia Burney is a doctoral student. She also has done extensive educational consulting and has lots of experience in early childhood education. And Dr. Gloria McDaniel is an associate professor and children's book author. We're so excited to have her with us tonight. She's going to share her social emotional learning children's book series with us this evening and do a reading for you later on. So our presentation is divided into 4 parts this evening. We first want to talk about why this is important. Why is family literacy important, and how can we get started in the home? We're going to then talk about tools and strategies that you can do in the home with your children during the break and beyond. We're going to have a book reading, as I just mentioned, with Dr. Gloria, where she'll do some modeling for us. And then we'll talk about resources. So what resources are available for literacy activities at home? Okay, so let's start with the importance of reading at home. So we know that research strongly supports the significant role of the home environment in literacy development. The family is every child's first teacher of literacy. So let's take a look at some of the key findings that are involved. So the first is parental attitudes and beliefs. So as a parent, your beliefs about literacy and your active engagement in activities like storytelling, reading, and conversations at home significantly can influence your children's literacy outcomes in school. So it's really important to consider how you as a parent and as an adult view literacy. If you see it as important, your children will in turn see it as important. All humans engage in literacy and language practices that are valid and valuable. So even if they're not your traditional school type of literacy activities, you have a lot to share with your kids. So we want to make sure that your children are seeing you reading and writing so they see that it's important to you. The second is language exposure and interaction. The richness of language children are exposed to at the home aligns to later literacy development. So conversations at home that focus on topics of interest to your children and your family and responsive interactions boost your children's ability to understand and use language effectively. Vocabulary in the home builds word knowledge and background knowledge and fosters curiosity. So really just talk. It's all about those conversations, and they can do so much. Next is the availability of literacy resources in the home. So we know that it's not always possible to be surrounded by tons of expensive books and literacy materials. And, that's the case for many of us. But access can go beyond just buying material literacy resources. We're going to talk about this a little bit later this evening, but just having things, even if they're multimodal resources that are available online for free, can really impact in a positive way literacy acquisition as well as language acquisition. So again, we'll talk a little bit more about that later this evening. A continued emphasis on literacy development and growth beyond early childhood is very important as well. So creating and maintaining a culture of literacy at home, even as your children become independent readers, so beyond that early childhood stage, it really supports ongoing improvements in their reading comprehension, their mental processing, their language expression, and this will help them as they move up in grades across their school years. And also it will help them foster a love of reading, which is also super important. Okay, so now let's talk about daily literacy routines. Creating a routine is one of the most important things you can do for your children. So regular literacy routines build strong reading habits and literacy skills over time. So the first thing you want to do, the very first step is really to establish a routine. Be consistent, create a consistent schedule. This does not have to be an extensive literacy task or an extensive amount of time. 15 to 30 minutes a day is ideal, but even if you only have 5 minutes or 10 minutes a day, as long as you're being consistent. And you can use things like bedtime stories, morning reads, or if you don't even have time during the week, even just creating weekend rituals where reading occurs at a very consistent time every day over the weekend. Designate a reading space. Select a quiet, comfortable area, and this helps make reading special for you and your children, and it'll help them look forward to it. Engaging activities. So you want to make sure that you're, it can go beyond just reading a book. You can play word games, you can do storytelling activities, you can involve apps and audiobooks and different things that can be accessed online to add engagement and supplement that traditional reading that we always think of when it comes to reading books. And we want to incorporate everyday literacy to make this simple and keep it manageable. So even things like reading recipes during dinner time. I know we don't all always use recipes, but if we do, or if we're looking for a new recipe, have your children involve your children in that process. That involves reading and writing. So reading signs while you're driving in the car, creating lists to go to the grocery store, simple things that are everyday tasks can really make a difference. And family involvement is also really important in the routine. If you have younger children at home, and it might be more difficult to spend time sitting with a school-age child reading, involve siblings, younger children, anybody in the family, in the household, invite them to join. Make it a shared, enjoyable experience to help instill a love of reading. Most importantly, though, keep it manageable and be flexible. Don't put too much pressure on yourself to do extensive literacy tasks or spend an extensive amount of time on this. Do what you can do, keep it manageable, and you can always build on what you're currently doing. Okay, so we know that life gets in the way of all of these perfect, idealistic things that we want to do. And I would like to just spend a few minutes to talk about problems and some potential solutions, because there are things to get in the way. And I think that number one thing for many of us is always time. We're always short on time and finding the time to squeeze these things in. And again, you can embed reading into regular routines that occur during your normal day, like meals or commutes, or just very short sessions, a few minutes, just a few minutes, and you can always build on that and extend your time. Again, access to resources. We definitely know that this can be a problem because we don't all have money to just spend on tons of books and materials. But we're going to talk about free resources, the local library, book swaps like Little Free Library. I'm not sure if there's one available in your community, but if there's not, it might be a great idea. We can pursue getting one where you can take a book and leave a book, and digital collections that are free online. And confidence, and this involves either the parents' confidence or children's confidence, or maybe lack of confidence. Maybe you're not as comfortable. We're not asking you to be a teacher of literacy to do this. These are things that you can do every day with your child just based on your own literacy skills. You have so much to offer, and you have valuable and valid literacy and language practices that you're doing every day. And regardless of the language. So if you're not confident in English, you can read in your native language, and that's very beneficial to kids as well. You can leverage multimedia content. So use social media. If you're a pro at social media, that involves reading and writing, and you can involve your kids in that way as well. And we also know that there is many times child reluctance or disinterest. So maybe they're just not interested in sitting down and reading every day. And you know, we're all from the education world, and we know that that is the case quite often. So we want to make sure that we let children choose books that are interesting to them. So build on their topics of interest. That's one of the things that we do in our summer reading program that I run with kids we bring in from the community, and we work on literacy skills. And one of the primary tenets of our program is building on student interest. So we're not just forcing topics in school curriculum on kids, but it's really based on their interest in building on that. That's sort of like the hook to get them in. Make reading interactive. Valencia is going to share some tools and strategies in just a minute of how to do that. And again, that multimedia, kids are experts, many times more than me, on digital tools. So they can, you know, use that and leverage that to build their literacy skills. Most of the things that they're doing online involve some form of reading and writing. And again, that's all valuable. All of those skills are valuable. Inconsistent routines can be a problem. So you may have good intentions, but it's really difficult to follow through and be consistent. And again, that consistency is pivotal. You know, it can be a game changer. Just sitting down for a few minutes every day. It doesn't have to be a big chunk of time, but use whatever you need to use. Visual reminders, charts, calendars, put an alarm on your phone if you have to, or even just a simple Post-it note stuck on your fridge as a reminder, so that you can create more consistency. And celebrate achievements. This really fosters motivation in kids. So even just little tiny things. So we read every day for 5 days. We read 50 minutes this week. That's a huge celebration. And make sure that you're making a big deal out of those things, even if they seem tiny. They're really not. And we know that some of our students experience learning challenges, which can make literacy more difficult to address in the home. There are adaptive tools available, like text to speech, that can be accessed on a phone or computer. There are large print books available. And again, work on literacy activities in small chunks. So if your student, you can build stamina over time, but if your child can't maintain focus and attention for too long, then start with a few minutes. Then the next day, add a minute. And after that, keep adding minutes as you see appropriate. And be patient and encouraging. Focus on incremental progress and use positive enforcement to make these things, to build on what they're already doing. So finally, just to sum up this section, there's no single right way to be literate or use language. Everyone has unique strengths and skills when it comes to literacy, and it can really depend on the context in your own cultural context. So at home, we can create a learning environment that recognizes, values, builds upon, and celebrates the literacy strengths of each child and family. And that's what we're encouraging here this evening. So with that, I'll turn it over to Valencia. And Valencia, I think you're going to share your screen. Okay.
Yes, I am going to share. And I guess while I'm sharing, if anybody had, any questions or comments while I'm doing this to kind of ease into
Yeah,
it.
thank you. I should have said that. Feel free. We're pretty informal with our presentation, so feel free to jump in with questions or drop them in the chat if you have questions.
Okay, just want to make sure no one put anything in the chat. So, hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for coming and showing out on a Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. I love the numbers. Usually you don't see this, so this just lets me know that you guys are excited about the opportunities that you can share with your children for reading. So thank you for being here. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the tools and strategies for building bright readers at home. And like Dr. Holtz just said that, you don't have to be a teacher at home, but technically you are a teacher at home because you are your child's first teacher. And the goal is really just to make this fun and exciting. So I'm hoping that what I share with you tonight, you can walk away with something that you can just pick up and start immediately with your child. So I'm just going to reiterate what was said earlier, because research does show that when you read every day with your child, it does improve their reading comprehension, their fluency, and their vocabulary. So it's just about taking the opportunity to spend a little moments with your child, doing something special, doing something that you love. And if you even just take reading out of it, it's just about bonding and building. And I think that's what's the most important thing that we hope that you all walk away with, is the opportunity to build a moment, a special moment with your child. So when you're reading at home together with your child, we know for a fact that research says that when you do this, it supports their social and emotional learning. And they're going to talk about this a little bit later, so this is not my area, but it just shows that it does support the academic learning in young children because they feel confident, they feel motivated. And this is what we want. We want them to feel good about who they are and where they are in their reading stage. It motivates them when you're at home reading with them together because it lets them know, like, hey, mom, dad, auntie, big brother, big sister, they're taking the time to spend with me. I'm excited about this. I want to show them this new book. So we want to motivate them and encourage them. We don't want them to feel like this is a daunting task, because sometimes reading can be, but it doesn't have to be. It also teaches them the important way of how to read a book in a meaningful way. You know, when you're learning how to read, you know, you read from top to bottom, left to right, how to hold a book the correct way. I have 3 older children, but I'm a new grandmother now. So my daughter just had a baby. So I get an opportunity when she visits her nanny, I get a chance to pull out all those old books that I had with my daughter and just letting her touch the book, you know, feel the book, hold the book, put the book in her mouth just to get comfortable with the book. So just showing them the meaningful way in which you want them to engage the book. And then the good part about when you read at home with your child, it stimulates curiosity and imagination, because that's what reading is. It takes you to places that you might not ever get a chance to visit. You might want to visit as you get older, but that's the goal here, is to stimulate that curiosity and imagination. So we want to take the fear out of reading and we want to put the joy back into reading for them. So how do we do that? These are some reading skills and some strategies that I'm going to share with you now that I hope that you take with you. But we know for a fact that in order for children to be successful at any stage of reading, they need to be comfortable with word recognition, being able to recognize those words that they see automatically, that they're not, you know, struggling over trying to get to. We know that they need to be fluent, meaning that when they're reading, they're not reading very slow or reading too fast, because if we want them to be fluent, which means that they are able to comprehend what they are reading. So these 3 things are like at the key of how successful children can be as they navigate each and every level grade. So even if it's at pre-K, kindergarten, even 6th grade, these are the 3 significant things that research tells us that children are successful at if they're able to read fluently and comprehend and recognize the words they read. So how do they do that? There are 3 ways that we usually teach children how to read a book. The first one is reading a picture. Usually you do this with wordless picture books, which is a great way to do that because they can build their own story. They can make meaning out of the story because they're looking at the picture. What is the picture telling me? What is the picture saying? What is going on this picture? They can infer a lot into a picture without struggling over the word prior to them learning the words in a book. The other way for them to read is reading the words. This is very important. We talk about vocabulary. The more vocabularies they have, the more comfortable they are, the more fluent they are with reading the words. So we know early on they start with the phonics, the blending and the segmenting, things that the teacher teach, all these instructional things in the classroom. But when they come home to you, we want them to be able just to pick up those words that they see, what we call sight words. So you're looking at the picture, you're looking at the word. And then the last thing sometimes we tend to forget is that when children retell us a story, that lets us know, did they comprehend what they read? And this is very important because a lot of times when they're reading the picture, or if they're reading the word, they might get a little stuck, then they have to go back and reread. And then when you want them to retell the story, they might not have gotten the story. So sometimes retelling that story lets us know, my child did understand what was read. They get it. They can retell it back to me. It doesn't have to be verbatim, but they get the gist of the story, the beginning, the middle, and the end. They're able to retell me in their own words what that story meant to them. So these are the skills and strategies that are very important for young readers, really for all readers. But these are the 3 easiest ways that we want to help children to understand how do you read a book. So let's look at strategy 1. What are some ways to support your child when they're reading together? They learn out the door to decode. Young children are learning to take words apart. They're taking those letters that they're learning, alphabets. What does the letter A look like? It has a sound to it. It seems very daunting, but it's really not. Over time, they will get it. So when you're at home reading with them, you can give them the sound to the word. So for example, if the word is fat, and I'm an early childhood person, so bear with me, but these skills will help them when they get into the primary grades and the upper grades. But early on, when they see a word and they're learning these individualized letters, they know that these letters have sounds to them. And these sounds, you put them together, will make a word. So if they get to a word and they get a little stuck on it, it's okay if you give them that sound. Sometimes parents feel like, oh, I don't want to give them the word because I don't want them to feel like, I'm giving them everything. It's okay. We believe in productive struggle. We don't want the struggle to be too hard because we don't want them to get discouraged. So if they get to a word and you see that they're struggling with it a little bit, it's okay. Give them the sound it out for them. Sometimes not all words can be sounded out. And a lot of times you may see children trying to sound out every individualized letter in a word. We know that they can't do that because now they're losing the understanding of comprehending what that word or what the story is telling them. So for example, when you get to elephant, you can't sound out elephant. That's too many letters in that. And there's so many things that are going on with that. Give them the whole word. Again, that's okay. You give them the word and they can start over and reread that sentence again. So if this is the sentence, the elephant is fat, they struggle with the fat part, they struggle with the elephant. Once you give them the tools that they need, they can feel confident. You've already showed them how to sound it out. They've already recognized each individualized letter sound in that. And then they see that this is elephant. And also when we talk about looking at the pictures, there may be an elephant on the page and they can go, this is elephant. So now they're making that connection. So this is decoding like 101 that you can do at home. They're going to learn the intricacies in school, but these are things that you can do at home with them to support them as well. Echo reading is another thing that you can do at home with your child. So usually with echo reading, you listen to them read first, and then you sit back and say, okay, now I want you to listen to me and I'm going to read this sentence and I want you to reread it back to me exactly how you heard it. So the good thing about this is that you're modeling for them. Again, you are their first teacher. So you're going to model for them. You're going to read it exactly how it should be read. So once they hear it in their brain, they know, oh, this is how this sounds. This is the flow of it. This is what fluency looks like. So this is what echo reading is. So you have decoding, you have echo reading, and then another favorite of mine is choral reading. If you've ever sung in a choir, you know we're all singing in unison. So this is all choral reading is. So if you're reading a sentence together, you might read it first from the decoding or the echo, and now you're going to say, hey, let's read this together. And now your child sees like, okay, they're reading with me. So this is kind of cool. So these are 3 small little strategies that you can do when we say reading together. You can do decoding, echo reading, and choral reading. Now, let's jump over to strategy 2. Strategy 2 is definitely one of my favorite because it brings out a level of curiosity and conversations. Conversations is huge when it comes to reading. Sometimes we get caught up in the very technical parts of reading, but sometimes it's just about having a conversation. What does that look like? Ask your child when they bring you a book, well, why did you choose this book? What did you like about it? You want to engage them in conversations. Then you want to talk about the real life connections that might be happening in the book. The next one is listen. We want to be a listener in this reading together fun time with your child. You want to be able to hear what they think about the book. You want to hear their thoughts because when they speak those thoughts out loud, it's a good way to have conversations about the book. Another one is to explore. This is when you're usually helping the child to infer what might happen next. And this is all like things that they do when it comes to comprehension. What do you think is going to happen next? Or most children that we know, they love to bring their favorite book. It's the same book you're reading over and over and over and over. So you can change it up and you can still explore it. What can we do differently to make the ending different? Like what else can happen that may make the prince may do something differently. So these are 4 different things you can do that helps to bring out curiosity and conversations with young children or even older children. And so this same thing applies to all age groups. I think so personally. Ask, talk, listen, and explore. So what does that look like? So dad is reading a book with his young son. He brings the book to them. Dad goes, he's asking, look, is this the book you wanted me to read? So now that you're asking the child about the book because they brought the book to you. Now the child is going to go, a big dog. So you're recognizing in that conversation, oh, this is a big dog. So now you're helping them to make a connection. Dad goes, wow, this is a really big brown dog. We talk about vocabulary. Child says big dog, they're learning the difference between big and small. But then again, you're also adding another piece to this. You're giving them a new piece of vocabulary. Brown, brown. Oh, it's a brown dog because they're learning colors in school. So of course, these are things you can reiterate at home. And then the child goes, I like dog. He gets excited about the dog. So now again, in this conversation piece, as you're talking with your child about the book, the dad goes, wow, this looks like the dog we saw yesterday. So you're extending their life to book text conversation with the child. So now they're seeing like, wow, I'm reading about a dog. I like dogs. I saw a dog yesterday. This was a brown dog. Maybe we might see a different colored dog. Who knows? I may go see a black dog. So now you're adding more to the vocabulary for the young child. It's just all conversational. Again, you don't have to be a teacher with the technical piece. Leave that boring stuff to the teachers in the classroom. You just want to have fun sitting with your child, engaging in conversations, and just spending a beautiful moment with your child. Strategy 3, which is something else that most teachers do in the classroom, with especially young children, which I do believe can happen in primary grades, and I think it should, is what we do with oral storytelling and dictation. This is something I love doing with my small children when they were children and when I was a kindergarten teacher in the classroom. I would allow the child to come and tell me a story. Sometimes children say, oh, I don't have anything to write about. You do. Just tell me what's on your mind. Tell me a story. You as the adult would just write what they're telling you. And the fun part about this is that after you write what they're telling you, you can go draw a picture. They can become an author. They can become an illustrator. Now they're seeing themselves as an author in all the wonderful books that you've taken the time to read with them. So, I'm sorry. And then another part of oral storytelling, which I also find very cool, family photo albums. Sometimes we take a zillion pictures. Now, many of them are on our phone, but if you're old school like me, you have a photo album at home. You can build a story from a photo album. So like Dr. Hodge said, you don't have to go buy all these expensive books. You have everything that you need at home to build your own books. You build your own library, use what you have, create this environment, or storytelling, getting them to talk about books, getting them to write about, draw about it, talk about it. And then art. Art is another piece about expression. You can do readers theater, bring the family together. We created the story. Let's do this painting, how we're going to showcase our characters. Now, with clay and art and all the wonderful things that come with that, let's build our characters. Let's mold something out. Let's create the scene. What is it going to look like? So again, reading is not boring. You want to take something that sometimes children feel like it's a daunting task and make it exciting and fun and engaging. And again, you don't need a lot to do that. Crayons, clay, and a photo album. And my favorite part is conversations. Dictation and storytelling. One thing I love about dictation and storytelling is that it really does support children's thinking, because when they take the time to think about what they're wanting to put on paper, they have to process that information. They're now looking at how the letters look on paper. They're now seeing like, wow, my thought is on paper. That really means something. You allow them to tell their story where they're not feeling rushed, they're not feeling pressured. And then what you do, you read it back to them and you show them, hey, you are a young author. That's something to be excited about. All the fun books that we read throughout the day, guess what? We can add this book to our own library and we can read your book now every day. Again, something that's exciting. What do you want the title of your story to be? Do you want to add anything? You want to extend their thinking. A lot of times when children are learning to read and write, they might not think about the details in the story, but this is a great way for them to start thinking about that. So when they do start really reading and writing and putting all these things on paper, I know how to add details. I know how to add the color of the eyes, long hair, short hair, stick figure, big dress, little dress. And then you ask some clarifying questions. So tell me more about this. Well, what do you think this character is going to do? Well, why did you choose this character? They might just say, oh, well, I chose this character because we read about this character in school, and now I want it to be my character. Again, taking something that could be so daunting in the classroom and making it exciting for you and your child at home is very important. You can do that through oral storytelling, dictation, readers theater, acting it out, and just having fun with it. Last strategy that I want to bring to your attention, because it's very important that children have a nice realm of vocabulary that they can bring with them. And that's usually done because you're reading a variety of books. Of course, you want to start with what the child is interested in because you want them excited. You want them to be engaged. You want them to be motivated. So sometimes they may not be interested in a different kind of a book, but because they see you're engaging in it, they might want to do it. So for example, my son, struggled as a reader. He didn't like the Junie B. Jones books. He didn't like all the girl books. So I had a friend say, hey, they have these Fly Guy books that were really like kind of gross. I'm like, ugh, that's kind of gross. But he took to the books because he felt like he could connect with the books. And then he went to graphic novels. So now he's an avid graphic novel reader. So when you open children up to expose them to a variety of different books, you will tap into something that they like. So always think about that in the back of your mind. Be interactive. We are our child's first person or person to love to engage in reading. Get creative, get silly, have a silly voice. If it's a witch, why didn't you do that? It's okay. Because when you're excited, they're excited, and this is what we want. Engage in meaningful conversation. So if you see a word in the book, oh, we just read about the elephant. What do you think you know about the elephant? What do you think the elephant likes to eat? So now you're bringing into more vocabulary into that reading. And again, you're comprehending, they're understanding the meaning of the elephant, why they exist, what is it that you want them to do, what is it you want them to learn. These are all wonderful things. Dr. Hodge mentioned early word games. Word games is a great way to engage your child with reading because it connects them to new words. And of course, this I think is for me is very important. When you're reading with them, this is how you build vocabulary and comprehension. That reading experience that they're having, you want to connect it to their life experience. If they see a book that they like, find another book that may match that book. Then you talk about, how does this book make you feel? I'm connecting it to myself. Is it a happy book, sad book, angry book? They're going to talk about social and emotional later. So you want to expose them to a variety of books. And most importantly, how does this book connect to the overall world around them? Because this is what we want. Reading explores opportunities for them to see another world outside of themselves. They get a chance to see themselves inside of books when we talk about those mirror experiences, and they get a chance to see how other people are living, something that they can experience that they might not be able to experience in the moment, but they can experience it in a book. So how do we bring this all together? Basically, allow your child to choose their books, but you want to be excited about it too. You want to spend quality time just sitting and holding a book, talking about it. You want to talk about, where does the story take you? How does it make you feel? And you can even talk about, how does the story make you feel? Did you get excited about it? Maybe bring up some of your old childhood books so they can get excited about the books that you read as a child. Talk about what they liked or didn't like. They may not like every book, and that is okay. We want them to be comfortable with what they like and what they don't like, but we want them to be comfortable talking about, what is it about the book that they don't like. And then, of course, you want to point out the new words in the books, because you want that word to become a part of their vocabulary, not just in a testing phase of vocabulary, but in a meaningful way where they're living this word each and every day. They're seeing it, they're talking about it, they're experiencing it. You can't get away from drawing and writing. Sometimes we get technical with the writing, but drawing is a great way to open up reading, creativity in young children's mind. And if I don't leave you with anything else tonight, I just want to leave you with this. Just enjoy your time together with your child. Just holding a book, looking at pages, touching them, feeling them, and embracing them, and just be in the moment with your child. And that is it for me on my
Thank you,
part.
Valencia. Can you just go to the next slide since you're already sharing?
Sure.
So I just wanted to point out on this slide, we're happy to share this presentation with all of you. And Dr. Gloria's name is linked on the most recent version of this that I'll send out. And if you click on the link, it'll have a flyer to some information that she is sharing with all of you, and a QR code to her books. So with that said, I'll turn it over to you, Dr. Gloria.
Did you want me to stop sharing, Dr. Gloria?
Yes.
Okay.
We're not hearing you.
Dr. Gloria,
Wow.
try to come out and come back into the space. Well, as Dr. Gloria is returning back to the room, does anyone have any questions at this moment based on what Valencia Burney went over today?
Hey, Latoya, this is me, Georgina. I know I joined pretty late for the meeting, but I think this was all great information. I know my daughter is actually in kindergarten, so I'm doing a lot of this reading and decoding words and sight words and stuff at home. So this was pretty good information. I just have one quick question. Would the actual deck be actually shared after the meeting?
Yes, we'll make sure that we'll send a recording of the video along with the PDF version of the presentation. So please give us, maybe if I'm overzealous tonight, you'll probably get it this evening, but first thing tomorrow afternoon. Thank you
Okay.
for that.
All right. Thank you
You
so much.
all
I
hear me
appreciate it.
now?
Yes, we can
Yes,
hear
we can
Oh
hear
my
you.
God, I
you.
don't know what that was. So what I was saying is thank you, Mary, so much, and Valencia, because all the things that you talked about, I'm going to try to demonstrate now during this read aloud that I do. I wanted to first start with the question. I don't know how many people, like I can't really see people with their cameras off, but how many remember somebody reading to you as a child and what that felt like? It was magical. And the thing is, I didn't experience it at home because I didn't have a group like as cool as the Links or teachers as cool as the ones at Lincoln who are working with you. But I experienced it at my elementary school to the point where I would be not feeling well and go to school just so that I could have the read aloud the last 20 minutes of the day. I still remember The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and that was like 75 years ago when I was in elementary. No, I'm just joking. But anyway, it's such a different kind of feeling when you do it. It's more than it's about all the stuff in the literacy, but it's really about the connection that happens when we read together. I focus my books on social emotional learning. And we used to call those the soft skills of self-awareness, the soft skills of self-management, the soft skills of social awareness. But what research is finding is that those are the skills that really separate the people who are effective from the people who like work our nerves. I know you might know people who are really, really smart, but their social skills aren't what they need to be. And so what I decided to do was to take my books and to center them on social emotional awareness so that when you do have those conversations that Valencia was talking about, and you do find books that Mary was talking to us about, you'll be able to have the kinds of conversations that we've been talking about. So the three books that I have, number one is Gloria Finds Her Voice. And Gloria Finds Her Voice is inspired by my own story. I integrated a school in Texas as a little girl, and it was such a traumatic experience that for most of my childhood, I was mute. I was non-speaking. And so it's just the story of me learning to like find my voice at school again. And it took 5 years, but I had supportive teachers who helped me get over that. The second book is called Peyton Finds a Friend, and it's about building trusting relationships and about how important friends are. And the third one is Deja Finds a Way, and that's the one I'm going to kind of read excerpts from this evening. It's a lighter story. It's about my little cousin who was really wanting a puppy, and when I heard the story, I had to write it. All these stories that I've written are about people who I know or who are in my family, and they're all devoted to social emotional learning. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen because, let me see. It says I can't share. You got to open it up for me.
Latoya, is she able to share?
Yes, she
Okay.
came back in, so she has access now.
Okay. So don't look at all the tabs. So the book is called Deja Finds a Way, and the cover is not part of this PDF of the book. So I'm going to just do a little bit of the reading. And what I need for you all to do with me is to like participate. I need you to ask me questions. I need you, there are questions that are asked in the text. So I need you to answer those as we come to them. And I'm not going to read the whole book because we would be here all night, but I'm going to tell you the story so you know what happens at the end. So first, here are a few things that you should know about me. My name is Deja. I'm almost a teenager. Well, I'm 10 years old and I'm in the 5th grade. My mom is my grown-up best friend. My favorite subject is math. My other friends are Elena, Rebecca, and Candace. And last but not least, you need to know that I want a puppy more than anything in the world. What do you see in the illustrations? Somebody unmute and talk to me. Mary, you do it. Come on, tell me what you see.
I man.
Be friends.
Yeah.
Yes, yes. It looks like they're having a really good time. And these are actually my little cousin Deja's best friends. And so I took an illustration of them and gave it to a photo of them and gave it to the illustrator, and she used that to create the images that are here. So for me, getting older is both fun and not fun at the same time. You know what I mean? When I was little, life was all about playing around a lot and not having to clean up behind myself, not needing to make food for myself, not having to wash my own clothes, really not having much responsibility. Now I've got a to-do list that feels like it's a mile long. But I'm here to tell you that being older is awesome too. I get to play on the school volleyball team. I get to talk on the phone with my friends, and I get to decide what I'm wearing to school. I even get to stay up a little later on the weekends. How cool is that? I'm learning that as I get older, I also have to become more responsible for things. How about you? Is that happening to you too? This is my story about learning how to prove that I could be responsible enough to take care of a really big job, a brand new puppy. My story is also about not giving up, even when things get tricky. And trust me, you'll see how things can really get tricky in my life. But I knew that I couldn't give up. Can you remember a time you felt like giving up, but you had to keep going? Check out my adventure and learn more about some of the things, or some of the ways that that we made things become more responsible. So I'm gonna go. So I'm gonna speed through. She's trying to convince her mom, here's the puppy she wanted. She's saying, Mom, please, what do you see in the faces? Her mom is like, yeah, right. Like, I don't believe a word of it. And so what happens in the story is Deja, her mom explains to her all the ways that she needs her to prove that she can earn having this puppy. And at first, it seemed like the jobs that she had her doing were easy enough. She wanted her to get up on time because she wanted to see if she could get up on time to take care of the puppy. She wanted her to do the dishes. She wanted her just to put them in the dishwasher, do her homework, and clean up. And those chores were tied to what she was going to need to be able to do when she had the puppy. So, of course, you know what happened. Deja did it for a couple of days, and then it worked out that she got off task and did not do what her mom needed her to do. So what she needed to do, she didn't give up, which is a social emotional learning topic in the book. She decided that she needed to do those things in her own way. So what she did was she made a plan. So the first big job she had was waking up on time. So for an example, she set the alarm on her own phone because at first her mom had set it on her phone. She made a colorful chart to congratulate herself with a sticker every morning when she got up on time. And then before bed, she got her clothes out. She did all the things that she needed to do in order to do the things her way and still got them done. So at the very end, they go to the mom says, I can't believe you got it done. They go to the puppy adoption center. You learn all about like the best practices in terms of going to adopt a pet. They talk about how much responsibility it is. There is Sandy. They're on the ride home. And of course, it all works out at the end. And she talks about like how she learned how to handle hard stuff, but she figured out that she needed to do it her own way and not the way that anybody else had her doing it. And of course, it's a happy ending at the end. So ask me questions. I got it in 10 minutes, Mary.
Not a question, but an observation. Good
Yes,
evening,
ma'am.
Gloria. I'm Diane Ingram.
Hi,
And
Diane Ingram.
hi. And I love reading to children. And what I loved about your book is that you showed growth. You may not start where you want to be, but if you keep working at it, which is how school is, how life is,
How life is.
how life is, then you get a reward at the end. And
Yes.
oh boy, if I had only had this book, I maybe could have gotten a better dog.
And the
But
thing is, the books are children's books, but the messages in them
yes.
are for all age groups. So, when you publish it on Amazon, they ask you, I say from 3 to 15, like I don't know how to categorize that, but there's the questions that I build in there lead to such rich conversations when you are having the conversation with your child. Because I put them in there because sometimes you can't think of what questions to ask. So I just inserted them. So
And the
it
thing
makes
I
it easy
loved
to
the
read.
most was you gave her the power within herself to get to
Thank you.
her goal. And
Thank you
that's
so much.
remarkable.
Thank you.
Thank
And the next book is going to be my granddaughter is on. Her camera's not showing, but it's going to be her story. Her name is Ananda. And she's going to find a gift, the gift that is what she loves to do. She's a dancer, she's a singer, she's a everything. So we're going to figure out what
Hi,
her hidden
Granny.
gifts are.
Hi, Granny.
Hi, Nadia.
Can I just say I like about your book is that it shows realistic, like a lot of times children nowadays don't have a realistic expectation that they want the shiny thing, but your book shows them like in real time what it is that you need to do to show. And then if you read this, you might say, you know what, I'm not doing all of that. So
Right.
I like that part of that. So I'm kind of like you, Miss Diane. If I would have had that book, I could have shut a lot of
But
stuff down.
Valencia, when you were talking about using real life stuff to create stories,
Mhm.
that's what I've done. My grandson is Peyton, and he was scared that he wasn't going to be able to find a friend at school. And he was telling me about it, and I just used his story to create a book. So I'm using the stories of the children in my family.
Real life. I like that. I'm gonna have to give me a
Thank,
couple copies.
thank you.
So I'm sharing my screen again. Thank you so much for that, Gloria. So here's what I was mentioning just a few minutes ago. This is so if you click, when you get the slideshow, and I did put the link to our slideshow in the chat, and I know that Latoya will share it with you all as well. But if you click on this link, Dr. Gloria shares some information here with you, and then there is a QR code if you'd like to find any of her books on Amazon, but we will be having a raffle and raffling some of them off in just a few minutes. The other thing we tell our graduate students who are all in-service teachers is that what Gloria mentioned is that these picture books are for all ages. You know, we tend to think of picture books as being for very young children, but that's not really the case. You can see that these books have themes that are very appropriate for older kids as well. And picture books can be used with any age students or children. Any other final questions for Gloria? Thank you so much for doing
I
that.
love you, Granny.
I love you too, Nanda.
Okay, last but not least, I would like to share this with you. You can use the QR code, or I've also linked the same set of resources for you here. So we mentioned a couple of times earlier this evening that, you don't have to go out and spend a ton of money to have valuable, high quality literacy materials. So I curated a collection for you on Pearl Trees, which is just a free app site that lets you categorize things. And you can take a look at this, but it's all kinds of free resources. I made sure that all of them are free and available and appropriate for parents to use at home with their children. So take a look at these over the break. This is a great way to get started with literacy activities at home. And again, that's available for you.